Good evening, everybody, wherever you are joining us from. I want to apologize for starting off late. Welcome to Elimupreneur, where we connect, share, and provoke one another to good works. My name is Betty Kimani, and my co-host is Stephen Gikungu. We want to today just share some thoughts that have been going through my mind since the COVID season. I was just sharing with my co-host how this lesson developed as COVID was continuing. Just like many of you who are there, the directors of schools, the teachers, and anybody else who's joining us, I remember being hooked to the news, just wondering what's happening. And as I continue watching the news, I realized that the school directors were responding to the COVID pandemic in different ways. I noticed that there are some schools that seem to be going on as if the impact of COVID was not so drastic on them. I am aware of a school that continued paying their teachers full salaries all the way up to date. And at the same time, there was schools that had to take their staff on unpaid leave. Coming down the line, I also discovered that there are schools that quickly changed their business models. Many of us know the directors who went public to change their schools into real estate, into poultry houses, into farming. And I started thinking, what is it about all these different schools, mine, ours included, that would make us make different decisions at this time? And it was at this time that I started, I want to say the Lord started putting in me a lesson. Because when I put something in a lesson, it makes sense to me, and I'm able to share it. I'm able to just brainstorm around it and just see whether it makes sense to the rest of us. So I came up with a lesson called The 4 C's Underlying COVID. And I've had the privilege of sharing that with my co-host, Stephen Gikungu. And just even sharing with him gave me even more insights. Stephen Gikungu has been my business partner, my marriage partner for many years, about 30 years in the school business. So we have seen a lot of ups and downs in the school business. We have gone through some highs and some lows, and I am privileged to be able to host this session with him today as we discuss with him, and hopefully you'll be able to get some insights, something to think about, something to reflect about. Maybe something to even take action. So let's move on. So the 4 C's. The first thing I started realizing is that we all must go back and find out, why did we start our schools? And for those of us who are second generation, like myself and SG, we had to start asking ourselves, why did our parents start the schools? Because I started realizing that there are 4 categories so far. There are 4 categories of the why we started our schools, because the why is very, very important. And I think that is what COVID was doing. COVID was, as many of us have heard, is not what is causing the problem. COVID just exposed underlying issues. Just like, for example, in our health, when COVID attacks us, we were told if you have a strong immune system, you may be able to fight COVID better than somebody with a weakened immune system. So over the months, I have noticed that COVID has exposed personally our own personal health. It has exposed businesses, especially small and medium businesses. It has exposed schools. And I want to today just invite you into this conversation of just finding out which of those 4 C's do you relate to, even as we go through this conversation. So the first C, I would say, would be school owners, proprietors, who started their schools as a copycat. Now, sorry to sound so blunt, but are copycats. And we've seen this phenomenon when once somebody starts a business somewhere, somebody else starts. Like the M-Pesa shops, the cyber cafes, the Quill business, whatever it is. So I started seeing that there are people who may have started their schools because they saw somebody else doing something, it was working for them, and therefore they went ahead and copied. Therefore, they went into school business. In my experience in the business, I have seen one sibling start a school and it becomes very successful. And then somebody in the family business also starts a school because the first sibling's school was successful. I have also seen situations where a second generation like me may decide to start a school because my parents started a school and they were successful. So when I look at what they did, I go and copy paste and I start my school. Some of us may have seen our friends starting schools. Therefore, we went and got some ideas from them. They told us how to start and we started the school. I also realized there are some teachers who work in our schools who looked and realized that if this director can start a school and I am the head teacher here, I can also go ahead and start a school. And so there's a possibility that some of us watching, listening to me today, if you go back to the why you started a school, that it could have been a copycat mentality. That's the first C. Let me ask SG to respond to that. What do you think?
Yeah, thank you, Betty, for that wonderful intro to the topic. I agree with you about the issue of copycat. Sometimes we do things because other people are doing them, and you put it very well in terms of why some of us start businesses. We can copy a business, as you said, and also actually run it well, or actually fail to run it well. That's how I introduce the second C, which is the commercial. Because what is commercial? How do we run a business as a commercial enterprise? How do we know what to do in that business? Yes, we have copied and we've come in and we start knowing what this business is all about. We need to start understanding that when you're talking about commercial, you are trading. This is a business. This is a private enterprise. We are intending to make a profit out of it. We need to know the vocabulary of the business that we've entered into. Like, for example, in the school setup, we have new vocabularies that have come into play. We talk about CBC. We used to hear about the 844 system, but the new vocabulary is a KBC, the knowledge-based curriculum. We need to stay current with the education on that. With the education sector, to know what has changed, what has not changed. We need to know, and we need to know even when we copy, whatever we are copying, we need to come and put into context what we've learned out there into our business, because we cannot run it like the neighbors are running it. We have to put it into context. Do we know which money belongs where? Do we know the business money? Do we know our money? Because that's where the problem comes in. There's a business money, there's our money. Which one is which? For example, let me give you an analogy of the cow analogy. A milk cow, you feed it. You make sure that you feed it so that it can produce milk. But what do we do with our businesses? We eat it even before, so that it dies a natural death while you are watching it. While you are watching, so we need to run the business, whether you've copied it or not, as a commercial enterprise, knowing that it has its own life and it has to live. Thank you, Betty. Back to you.
Thank you, SG. You've reminded me that you may have started the company, your school, as a copying from somebody else. But one of the things that we need to be careful about is that you may go and get benchmark in another school, and then somebody comes and tells you this thing is, there's no money here. There's no money here. It's just a headache. It's just a headache. So you may go to copy, and then also copy the weaknesses of that company. So I like what you say, that there's no problem with copying something, but run it better. All right. So if you come and find that the person you're copying from has been struggling with the business for 5 years, 10 years, 11 years, 15 years, I think if you're going now to the next level, you want to run a profitable enterprise, take the good, learn from what you can from the person you're benchmarking with or you're copying from, but let us not repeat the same mistakes. One of the things that I keep telling the directors that I'm hanging out with is COVID has shown us the mistakes we made, all of us, including ourselves, in the past. It would be so sad moving forward that we do not make an effort to literally stop or reduce or decrease the mistakes that we have now seen that have been exposed by COVID. I just want to say one thing before I go to the third C. The word commercial here, I think is where our people may look at it as if we are being very commercial. And that's where sometimes, if we do not take back the value to our from what we are charging, the quality, that is where you hear people saying that private schools have become commercial. The word commercial, in my opinion, is not a bad word. Okay, it is a commercial enterprise. It has to be a profitable enterprise, or at least break even. I think the problem comes in when we have customers who think that for what they are paying, they are not getting value. And I think that is what you are saying, that if we are able to do the finances properly, all of us, we will be able to plow back the profit so that our customers don't look at us as just commercial entities in enterprise. Thank you so much for that. Let's go to the third C. This for me was the one that was the first one that really hit hard. Career. There are many of us, I don't know what percentage I would guess, but there are very many of us when I interact with my fellow friends, directors. There are many of us who started schools because they were career educationists. These were teachers, they were teacher trainers, they were professors. And therefore, just choosing the teaching career was probably even did it by choice. One of the rare people who choose that by choice. And these are people who started their schools, because they wanted to make sure that they offered the best quality education. When I look at how COVID impacted school directors, my experience has been these are the directors who got hit the hardest. Because suddenly, these directors could not interact with the students. They could not interact at the classroom level. These were directors who, some of them actually were the principals of their schools, or the head teachers of their schools, or their directors in charge of academics. So they were very intimately tied up and involved with the curriculum that is happening right up to the classroom level. I know there are some who even used to attend parades on a Monday. So these are career directors who, education, they did teaching, they did it all the way. They have degrees, they have masters, probably all the way even up to PhDs. And I find that for these people, for these directors on this path, COVID really shook them. Because on one hand, it removed them from the face-to-face contact with their passion. But it also threatened their careers. Just like we have teachers who are beginning to think, do I want to become a teacher now after COVID, or do I want to jump ship and do something else? I find that if you're a director who is a career educationist, the idea of even restructuring your business is painful to even think about it. So these are directors, you would not even imagine that your school can be converted to real estate, or can be converted to, farming and poultry keeping and whatever it is. That is not even a discussion you are willing to have. Because for you, you started your school, you had a passion for education, you were intimately hands-on, you were involved with the children, and some of you had to literally pivot online. If you're a director who is a career educationist and you are not able to pivot online, I think it's a very painful situation for you. Because these are the ones who had to go online. They had to look for a way to connect and reconnect with the staff and the children. I think for me, these are the ones who are really right now having it very tough, even having conversations about moving forward. But they are also the ones at the forefront who are helping us to reimagine a new normal. These are also the ones, because they have gone right into the classroom, they have understood all these online lessons. They are the ones who will give us a path forward towards the blended learning. They are probably going to be the ones who are going to set the pace for the rest of us in the other categories. So I want to encourage any director here who is a career educationist, please soldier on, because we are looking at you to be able to move on. So this is the other C that I realized, that there are some of us who are career educationists. Therefore, having a conversation with somebody who went into the business as a copycat, another one went to the business for commercial purposes, and this third one as a career, you may find that when you're trying to have a conversation, the three of you, there are places where your ideas will just go opposite, because you're coming from a very different scenario. What do you think, SJ? Career.
Thank you. Before I continue in the area of career, there is Olive Tindika who is saying that you copy, yet you don't have the end result, so you get stuck because you don't know where you are headed. You just copy and then you don't know where even the guy is going. About career, you said it very well. Thank you. You've put it, you nailed it on the head. Thank you. Let me go to the calling. This is where the road meets the rubber. What is a calling? What is a calling? It's very interesting. You can be asked what is a calling, and maybe sometimes you might even say that a calling is a career. You've just talked about career, and calling is not a career. You might say it's a profession, and actually I don't think calling is a profession. It's very interesting, and I was looking it up and say that calling is both doing and being. It's who God created you to be. It's what God created you to do, to be, and to do. It is more of the purpose that we have. Now, they say that if actually education or whichever business you are doing is a calling, you will not just shut it at whatever, whenever you have a difficulty. For example, how do we know that? We are walking in God's calling? How do we know? It's very interesting. When I looked at it, also it says that God will bring glory to Himself through our service. That God will bring glory to Himself through our service. That when we serve, whatever we are serving, whatever we are doing, God gives Himself glory. The second thing is God will cause other people to express their gratitude. It's very interesting that you help someone and they tell you, thank you very much that you helped me. That's basically your calling. Then the next one is you'll have hard days. For example, you'll be having corona. You'll have hard days. You'll have tough times. You'll go through hard times, but you keep on keeping on. God gives you that strength to keep on keeping on. That you wake up knowing that yes, I might not be able to fulfill this. It is hard, but you wake up regardless. Okay. Then the last one is when you find gifting. When you find gifting, you find that God shows you the gift of other people, so that you know that you depend on other people because you've known your gifts. You also believe and know that there are other people who have gifts, and then so they can be able to coordinate. You can be able to cooperate with them. Just like what the Bible says that the body has many parts, but each and every part has its own use. That's the same thing with the human beings in terms of the calling, that we know there are people who can be able to to fit the jigsaw puzzle, because we are one of the pieces in the jigsaw puzzle. So there are people who can come and fit that jigsaw puzzle. What do you say, Madam Betty?
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. I like what you say, that God will connect you with the people that you need to be connected to be able to just step out in faith. You've reminded me that if it's a calling, then you wake up in the morning telling God, this is your business. God owns my business. So you wake up in the morning reminding yourself and reminding God, this school is your business. I am just a steward. Help me to have the right frame of mind, to behave like a steward, to think like a steward, okay, and to act like a steward. Because if you go back in your own retreat and just think about your calling, and this is especially critical for the founder members here. Because you're the ones who are setting the ball rolling for your school. So if you're clear that this is a calling for you, I just want to remind you, just tell God this is his business. You are his steward and you are ready to do his bidding. And that, as SG has said, that the Lord may just connect you with the right people, the right resources, to be able to have the right mindset, experience the right emotions, have the right words coming out of your mouth. Because as the school owners, there are people who are listening to us. Sometimes I have with them, because as soon as the staff members hear panic in the director, they also go into a panic. So once it is clear, if you reach a point and it is clear for you that you are called into this school business, to be an edupreneur, to be a school owner, all right? Ask God to help us, all of us, to just step out and honor God in that calling. And I just want to say that these are just the 4 C's that Kevani and I were thinking about. You may have some others. You may, even as we are talking, you may think, I don't fall into any of the 4 C's. But I think I have another one that is unique to me. Feel free to share and just let us know. So let me just wrap it up again. Find out. There is this tool that we use called the SWOT analysis. All right? This would be a good time to do a SWOT analysis individually and also with your board members and also your management team. Right? What is it right now during COVID time? What are our strengths? What are the strengths that are still here? They have not been wiped out by COVID. Because if you had a gift, the gift is still there. If you had a gift for communication, if you had a gift for touching lives, the gift is still there, COVID or no COVID. So there's something about our schools, whatever C they may fall under, there's still a strength that we bring into this community. So look at the strengths. Those are still there. What has been exposed is the W, our weaknesses. And these would be our internal weaknesses. I know, for example, as entrepreneurs, just putting money aside in an emergency fund is not something that was usual for many of us. And that's a lesson that we have learned. Just to be able to just sweep away money and put it somewhere in an emergency fund. That's if you and I were not doing that, then that would be a weakness. Look at the opportunities. One of the things that we know is that even when businesses are shutting down, there are others that are starting and are thriving. So this is not the time to say everybody is going down. There are people who are thriving. As schools are shutting down, I am aware there are people looking for schools to buy. I am aware of that. You are aware of that. So somebody told me that the money just flows from one person to the other, from one business to the other. All right? So let us look at these opportunities. And of course, in education, one of the biggest opportunities is to be able to pivot online. That is a huge opportunity that we can continue with. Then let us look at the threats. Already right now, there are threats that we can see. But look at it. In 2021, what will be the threats? I am aware that at this time we've all started the engine called a school with very few numbers, and yet the whole engine has been switched on with very few numbers in the schools. That is extremely frustrating in terms of not being able to capitalize on the numbers, the economies of scales, that's not working. And yet we have to tell parents that we are opening in 2021. So I want you to I request you to do a SWOT analysis. Think about the 4 C's. Have a conversation with 1 or 2 other people as a team and find out. For those of you who are second generation, do what I had to do. I had to go to my mother, the Reverend Hannah, okay, and find out why did they start the school in 1983, 37 years ago. And have we caught that vision that they had? Or was it maybe they had an issue? Let me give you an example. We were actually discussing about what is the story for our school, the Marion schools. And if I tell you the story, you will quickly see how we went through the different C's. Where we are, our main campus is in Kahawa, West Kasarani. And many years ago, this estate was being built by the city council. So, as usual, there were spaces for schools and hospitals and all the amenities. But my father, the late Samuel Bogwa, realized that there was no private school. And he saw that as an opportunity. Now, he had a very good friend of his who was running a very successful school on the other side of town, in Kilimani. And that friend told him, if you start a school and run it well, you do not have to do all the 1,001 other businesses that you're doing. At that time, my father was hustling very many businesses. So when you think about it, my parents started as a copycat. And I remember when I came in 1990, we were literally copy-pasting whatever we could see from that particular school in Kilimani area. So we started as copycats. Soon we started looking around and seeing who is doing well. So we copied that. Later on, still as he was going, because my parents are business people, they're entrepreneurs, they thought that they could commercialize, they could start a business that if it is profitable, it would serve the community of Kahawa West and offer quality in this area. Now, the interesting thing is that they were not educationists. But there's something that they learned a very long time ago as entrepreneurs, as business people, that if you give quality and get the right human resource, all right, you will be able to survive even in the school business, even without that background of education. All right, so in terms of career, how it happened at the Marion schools is that we made sure right from the word go that as much as we could afford, we got the best stuff that we could afford at that time. Okay. Later on, when I started speaking to my parents, I realized that they had a calling. It was especially evident in my mother, the Reverend Hannah, especially because they had a passion for providing education to the economically disadvantaged. They had both gone through a hell of a time just trying to access quality education. And therefore, that's where I saw the calling. So it is possible for you to also be able to go through all the C's and see where the phases where your school has gone through. And I pray that as you go through the 4 of them, that the Lord will speak to you, will speak to your family, and will really, really encourage you. So thank you so much for joining us for this podcast. I want to ask Kenji to share with you a link of a podcast that was done by our coach, the founder and the CSO of Nehemiah Projects, Patrice Sagay. He did a beautiful podcast on the 7 strategies of reimagining education. So he does a beautiful job of going through the 7 strategies. And I want to believe that once you go through that podcast, we will share the link here, that you will be able to listen again from somebody else, and may God help you, help your family, help your business and your community to be able to reimagine education moving forward 2021. Thank you so much for joining us. God bless
Betty,
you all. Thank you, Kimani.
Betty, before you continue, close. There's a question from Cynthia.
Okay.
She's asking, can a calling be cascaded to the next generation? But maybe before you answer that, there is a 1 Peter 4:10, which says that each one should use whatever gift he has received to serve others. So can a copy can a calling be cascaded to the next generation?
I am telling you, that takes God. It's almost like, Cynthia, thank you. That's an excellent question. It's a little bit, if I were to answer, it's like the vision. When I came into the Marion schools, I usually say I came shouting and saying I don't want to come, but I ended up here. And for very long, I only did whatever my parents wanted. So I was living their vision. It reached a point where I used to tell the staff members, this is what Mr. Mbogwa wants. This is what Mrs. Mbogwa wants. So this is what we are doing. But somewhere along the way, I realized that I had caught the vision. So I stopped saying, my language changed. I stopped saying, this is my father's vision. This is my mother's vision. It became mine, because what they had done, they had shared it so continuously and so consistently that it had got into me, and I bought into it. Oh, of course, I know it is possible not to buy into it, but in this case, I bought into it. Actually, I bought into the Christian part so seriously that I literally created a system when I was the CEO where the Christian was very obvious, unapologetic. So for it to be cascaded, it has to be cascaded by the bearer of the vision. So if the founder gets it, all right, it will not happen by osmosis, like we used to say. You're not just going to say that just because I am a director of a school who wants to run a Christian school, that it's going to happen. No. That story may just end up with you as the founders. But if you say it over and over again and identify the successor, and by the way, the successor may not even be your child. It could be the non-family top leader, your CEO, your head teacher, all right, your administrator, whoever it is, all right? But it takes, in my opinion, it takes the founder who has that calling to make it abundantly clear that this is what this school represents. All right. Otherwise, what's going to happen is that by the time you go to the second generation, that school will not be recognizable. And you are going to have people saying, oh, I thought this school, let me give you an example. Maybe your parents would have wanted your school to be very good on performing arts and creative arts. Maybe during your parents' time, your school used to register for music festivals, drama festivals, all the sports things, all of them. All right. But the founder did not communicate that as something that is core, a value that you want. That anybody who is coming through this school must have that opportunity to have their sports abilities, to have their musical abilities, to have their drama, artistic abilities. So it becomes like, oh, it used to happen when mom and dad were around. We used to go to the music festivals and even win. But you will come back. You may come back down the line and find that your second generation, really, that's not a big deal. The person has moved on to something else. So I think it is possible, Cynthia, but the work is on the founder, the vision bearer, the person who was called to communicate it in no uncertain terms. Thank you so much. God bless you all. God willing, see you next Tuesday. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. See you.
Bye-bye.